Hey, what's going on, everybody? Quick little video. Today is August 22nd. I'm very excited because I spent a bunch of money today. I spent a bunch of money just now to pay for my books and the new zines, which means they're all done back in the printer in Kansas City. Usually they ship them UPS. Usually takes 2, 3, 4 days to get here. They said they're going to be done on the 23rd, so they're a day ahead of schedule, which is great. Today's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll probably get them either Saturday or Monday, which is really, really exciting. I have a bunch of things I want to show you. I got some promotional things. I got some postcards, Chicago Joe postcards. So I mailed a few of these out today, like 100, and I'm going to be putting some in different envelopes and stuff. So I'll either write you a little postcard just to get, even if you don't buy the book, at least you got this cool artwork you can tack up on the wall. Or I might be mailing out a few blank ones you can use for postcard for yourself. I also got some promotional bookmarks, which is really cool. I got all these printed at DocuCopies.com. I've used them a handful of times. I've never had issue with them. They're really good, really professional. I'm a fan. I know there's other zine stores that use them to print their zines too. But one side of the bookmark has a couple zines and my little website, and then the other side has a couple of my books and my other website. So some promotional bookmarks. That's kind of cool. What else do we have here in my office? I'm going to be mailing a bunch of books, which means I need a bunch of envelopes. And when you buy those padded envelopes, they're usually like, if you buy one, it's going to be like $2. And if you buy a dozen, it's going to be like $12. So I bought 100. So got these nice padded envelopes. All the things you don't think about when you're trying to sell a book. Like, why is it so expensive? Well, because I got to pay money for the envelopes. I got to pay money for the postage. I got to pay money for promotional bullshit. But I think it was $38 for 100 of them from Staples. So 38 cents an envelope. Much, much more tolerable, much better. What else do we have? I got some new stickers. Some Trump stickers. I don't usually carry my camera around. I don't need to make everything so shaky. I got one there. Trump the tax cheat, and I got one there, Trump the cyber bully, and I got, this is my favorite, crisis actor. Maybe he got shot. I haven't seen stitches. I didn't see a scar, but puts on a good show. All that blood smeared everywhere. So I'll probably be throwing some stickers in there in different packages, and I gotta write my newsletter today, my new Desert Sun I'm gonna write today, so I'll probably be throwing some random stickers in there too. I wanted to talk a little bit about the characters of Chicago Joe. There's a handful, there's like maybe a dozen different characters in the book. Almost all of them are based on real people. So I thought I'd talk about it a little bit because I think it's fun. I made a list so I don't forget them. But a lot of them are based on real life zinester people. And some of them I kind of asked before I was writing it, and some of them I kind of asked after I was writing it. Like, I asked my real life friends, like, hey, is it okay if I base a character on you? And it was everyone was really cool with it, and everyone was like good with it. If you're familiar with the zine scene and the zine world, and especially Quimby's, because a lot of this book takes place at Quimby's in Chicago. So if you're down with the Chicago Quimby's zine scene, you probably can figure out who these are all based on. Opening scene, opening first chapter, there's a character named Jana Bobeck. Jana Bobeck, kind of obviously, is based on Anna Jo Beck. Anna is amazing. I love her. She does all kinds of super cool zine stuff. She helps out with Zine Fest. She does promotional things. She's got her own Patreon. She writes her own zines, and she's just such a good person, and I love everything about her. And she just seems like a really cool person to base a character on. All the characters are all based on people, but they're not them. So it isn't actually Anna Jo Beck. Jana Bobeck is her own character, but I'm like, oh, like in my mind, like instead of just inventing a person, I'm like, let me think of someone and just like, okay, yeah, she's like whatever, mid-30s, she's got freckles, she's, you know what I mean, just kind of make it a little easier, and it's kind of fun to base it, you know. the whole thing mostly takes place in Chicago, so I went with a lot of Chicago zinesters. Another character, Hannah Cinnamon. Hannah Cinnamon is based on Cynthia Hannafin, who works at Quimby's. So I just switched the H and the C, and I came up with Hannah Cinnamon. And then I thought it was kind of cheesy, like, oh, I have a character named Jana and a character named Hannah. But then I was like, no, I think it's kind of fun. Hannah and Jana, they're like best friends. So that's two of the characters. They're both. I think I would still call them main characters. They're both in it quite a lot. One of the early kind of antagonist characters is a guy named Chops. Chops is based on my buddy Ed, Ed Kemp, who does the word distribution out in New Jersey. And it was really funny how my brain works, because I was just coming up with a silly story, and then you start coming up with these characters. And so in real life, Ed's nickname is Chops. And I think he's had that nickname since high school, because I think he used to have like sideburns, right? He had chops. I came up with a way better backstory of why my character is named Chops. The character in the book, I made him not know anything about zines, but I made him a big pencil person. And the pencil thing was obviously just inspired by Chops, by Ed, because Ed knows a lot about pencils. But then I was like, oh, but I can't be exactly like him. I got to have something, whatever, like a negative thing. So the negative thing is that he doesn't know about zines. So it's like a new world to him. So I apologize, Ed, that I made your character seem like you don't know anything about zines. Obviously, the real Ed knows a lot about zines. But Chops comes in, and the whole premise of the story is that there's this long lost zine that everyone's trying to find. And so there's all these Chicago people looking for it, and then he comes in from Jersey, and the Chops character is looking for it, and then there's conflict, right? Chops ends up meeting up with someone named Nikki Knightley. Nikki Knightley is based on my friend Nicole Morning. See what I did there? Nikki Knightley, Nicole Morning. Nicole Morning is a real life zinester and friend of mine that lives in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and organizes the Las Vegas Zine Fest out here. And so I needed kind of like a villain. I was trying to come up with villains, and I sent out a text to a whole bunch of my friends and said, hey, does anyone want to be the villain in my zine story that I'm working on? And Nikki was the first one to reply. She wrote back, I love being the villain in a man's story. And that was like such a good line that I put it in the book, because it's like so good. So there's some similarities, basically just in like, oh, the character is from New Mexico, and, you know, the Nikki and Nicole thing. But the one in the book is much more devious than the real life Nicole, who's like one of my friends that I love. Willie DeBall. There's a character named Willie DeBall that's like an eccentric zine distro runner. Willie DeBall, Billy McCall. That's based on me. Willie DeBall is not really in the story too much, but he's kind of like a background player. There's a character named Carol. Carol is a character that works at the Prelinger Library in San Francisco, and that's based on Carol Lee Wheeler, who's the real person that's a friend of mine and a Patreon supporter of mine. In one of the behind the zines, she wrote an article for me about the Prelinger Library. So when I was working on this book, I was like, I needed some sort of location in San Francisco. I was like, oh, they should go to the Prelinger Library. So then I need someone that like runs it. So, okay, a woman named Carol runs it. So I've never met Carol Lee in real life, but I just needed a name and just some basic, like, oh, here's what you do. So, and she gave me a couple of little tips about, like, hey, if you're in San Francisco, they should go to this coffee house and stuff like that. So she was very helpful. One of the other villains is someone named Henry. The name is based on nothing, but I based Henry's details and character on my friend Patrick, who lives in Michigan, and he did half of the illustrations. He's one of my illustrator friends, and I based one of the characters on him just because he was also someone that responded to the mass text of who wants to be a villain. I actually had a few people that were like, I'll be the bad guy in your story, but I don't need too many. So the people that offered, thank you, but I only needed a couple. But yeah, Henry is based on Patrick who lives in Michigan. Burf Quimby. I have a character in the story named Burf Quimby. That's based on Steven, who lives in New York and started Quimby's and now runs the Quimby's in New York. So if you've ever met Steven at Quimby's in New York, like that's who Burf Quimby is obviously modeled after. And then the last two main characters, there's a woman named Elizabeth Kane. Elizabeth Kane is based on Liz Mason, who runs Quimby's in Chicago. In my story, she doesn't run Quimby's in Chicago, but she's connected to it. But she actually runs another secret location that's very zine related. And in the beginning, she's very prim and proper, and towards the end of the book, she loosens up a little bit more. So the beginning characteristics don't remind me at all of Liz, but towards the end, like she's kind of acting and talking the way Liz Mason talks in real life. So you can kind of visualize her. But when we did the illustrations, some of them kind of look like the real life people, but a lot of them don't, because you just kind of make the illustrations however you want. And then the namesake of the book, Chicago Joe. So Chicago Joe is based on Liz's husband, Joe Mason, who is also a zinester and 101% Chicagoan. The whole book the idea for it came when watching Indiana Jones, and my partner and I were like, oh, wouldn't it be funny, instead of breaking into temples of like other civilizations, what if this person was like having this adventure, just trying to like track down like a zine or something that was, ridiculous, that you would like risk your life for, right? And so we started coming up with different names, and then we're like, yeah, what if it took place in Chicago? Instead of Indiana Jones, it could be Chicago Jones. And then we're like, oh, what about just Chicago Joe? And we came up with this idea in January of this year. And the previous November, Alicia and I had gone to Chicago to go to a Bears game and hang out in Chicago and spend a few days in Chicago. And we hung out with Joe and Liz and Anna and, just all our Chicago friends, right? And so even though, like, I love Joe, but we're not like best friends. Like, we've hung out a handful of times. I definitely know Liz more than Joe, but even Liz I haven't hung out with that much. I feel like I am really good friends with her, and I'm good friends with Joe too, but it was more of the name. And after hanging out with Joe, he's such an ambassador for Chicago that I'm like, oh, if I think of who's Chicago Joe, like, oh, that's Chicago Joe, because he has a jacket with like Chicago flag patches, and so the character in the story also has like a jacket with all these like Chicago flags. And Joe Mason has like done zines about Chicago, so he's definitely a zinester and he's definitely a Chicagoan. And so I took like those ideas along with the name and then just like built up a character that's like the ultimate zine historian and the ultimate Chicago guy. And just, I don't know, I think it's going to be really cool and really funny. And it was really fun. All these different people that I just listed, I sent them like advanced copies, and I got their input, and like everyone had like different types of input. And for example, Joe Mason was like, hey, when they go to this part of Chicago, they should be at this intersection, not this intersection. And when they go here, they'd be taking the orange line, not the, like, he gave me like all the Chicago, like he tightened up my Chicago storyline, which was really, really great. But everyone had good input, and I'm really excited for them to see the finished product, and hopefully they love it, because I am like stoked. I'm like getting these in the mail, like made me like really excited. And then getting an email like the next day from Casey Book Manufacturing of like, hey man, like, what's your credit card? We got to pay for this. So it's like in transit, it's coming soon. The other thing I wanted to show you before I get out of here. So I have oops, I'm running over my own cord. I have a whole stack here of behind the zines. Like, these are all the behind the zines 18, like already have their addresses and stamps on them. And then these are all my pre-orders for the books. I already have a stack of about 20 pre-orders, and everyone's going to get one of these little maps, everyone that's doing like the early pre-orders. So anyway, all of this to say that it's almost done. It's almost here. Hopefully I'll get it by Monday. And I'm going to the Cincinnati Zine Fest I fly out on Thursday. So I'll have like 2 or 3 days to pack everything, and I'll get as much of it as I can. And if not, the ones that I don't get, I'll mail the week after. But it's coming soon. I hope you guys are excited. I'm like I'm always excited when I have a new project, but this one especially, because I've been working on it for so long, and I really think it's good. And I think any zine person is just going to love this book. So I'm stoked. I'm happy to have it like almost here. So anyway, hope everyone's doing good, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.